And now back to your regular programming.
If you speak better to yourself.
You showed up for probably the dumbest conversation we've ever had on this show.
Let's have that smile again.
Tell me how that happens. Physically should not happen.
Relax.
If you say
Give me as well.
3 times a day, God will line it up.
He's just an absolute hack, and he gets his ass kicked by the teammates every week. It's just terrible.
Welcome back to Hack City. Joe DeLeone, Sean Anderson, 2 former college football players from the University of Rhode Island. Today, we're here to preview the first round of the FCS Football Playoffs. We're going to rip through all of these games, quick hits on what you can expect this coming weekend. Sean, before we get there, if any of our listeners wanted to place some bets on the FCS playoffs, where can they do it?
You're going to want to do it at Bet Online. Joe, I am back home with my family, and when we're having a Thanksgiving football weekend, I like spreading the board around. We got football on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I take a bath. My dad places 2 bets. He's up huge at the end of the weekend. He's happy. I'm upset. That's just how it goes. But I'm doing it all at Bet Online. In-game live betting, Bet Online provides you with constant real-time odds and action and the ability to watch the games as they happen with the largest selection of odds on anything from football, NBA, college basketball, NHL, UFC, and boxing. I was watching some college basketball last night. Heating up. Head to the website today to get to see why Bet Online is America's most trusted site for online wagering. Bet Online, the game starts here.
Yeah, nothing's better than placing a bet on Thanksgiving morning and then being upset and pissed off while also hungover and ruining the vibe at dinner for everybody. That's one of my favorite
Are you
things.
tired? No, Granddad. I'm in the hole. That's what's going on here.
All right, Sean, let's start off your first game. Number 12, Illinois State takes on Southeastern Missouri State. Paxton De Laurent, we're all familiar, and I'm a big fan of De Laurent, who has been an impactful player in the FCS as their starting quarterback. Of course, we can't go without mentioning one of the best names in the FCS, Wankers Wright, who is dominant as hell on the ground. Sean, what do you think of this game?
Yeah, each team I've been high on and low on. SEMO low on them from losing last week, and then Illinois State, they started so slow, and I'm sitting here like I don't know if they have the legs for this season, but apparently they do, and helped by Wankers Wright, the big strong running back that they have, and Tommy Rittenhouse, who has put together a solid year. At the beginning, I'm like, am I going to start tracking this kid? Am I going to really start seeing if he's got the mettle to keep on going through a full FCS season at this rate? He did. And Illinois State was quickly off my bracket. I thought they were done for the year, and then they kept on churning out win after win after win, and now they're sitting in the FCS playoffs with a ranked position going against SEMO, who I thought all year was going to be a possible end of the year seeded team because they do have a strong offense. So it's just 2 teams that have had a bit of a roller coaster meeting up in what I can only describe as an early chaos game to kick off the FCS playoffs.
Yeah, Illinois State has been like a really quiet team. They feel like they have not really been in that super premier upper echelon conversation, but they've just been stacking good performances. SEMO, on the other hand, I lean in this game Illinois State because of the lack of momentum that SEMO has after the tough loss that they suffered against Tennessee State. We're going to talk about Tennessee State at the end here, but that is extremely demoralizing. Lose a tough, hard-fought battle, lose the conference. You just squeak into the playoffs after being one of the highest-ranked teams for most of the year. Very interesting that this is where we landed, where SEMO is just a little bit is unranked or is unseeded rather, and Illinois State ends up surviving there. Sean, we've got a battle in New England, Central Connecticut State versus URI, the number 10 Rhody Rams. Darren Rizzi gave him a shout during the press conference this week for the New Orleans Saints, former Rhody Ram head coach. They're currently still without their starting quarterback. Hunter Helms is appearing to be the guy stepping in, who has had a shaky couple of games these past few weeks, filling in for Farrell. One thing that needs to get brought up here with Central Connecticut State. I didn't realize this. They picked off Darius Parentes 7 times last week. 7 times.
I got some ball hawks.
That's insane shit. If Helms is not on top of his game and he is not putting the ball in strong situations for his playmakers and taking risky passing attempts, this game could end up being closer than people expect.
Yeah, I want to say, I want to come on here and say Hunter Helms is that guy. Let's steady the ship. First playoff game in Kingston, first playoff game for the Rams since the 80s. Like, it should all be shaping up, but it's not on Helms's shoulders. I think it's been mostly Malik Grant, their running back, who has just been a force. And that's what the offense is going to run through in the playoffs. It's going to be pretty easy to scheme for this URI team. Cover inside the tackles, get your gaps filled, and don't let Malik Grant find a seam and beat you like he did last week, 200 yards, 3 touchdowns, just getting hot at the end of the year. Both weeks where Farrell has been down, he's needed to step up, and he has, which is a great thing. If when we were playing, we're hoping the run game can open up a little bit. We're just hoping to unlock it more and more every single week. They've unlocked it at URI, and they also have a defense that plays very complementary football with some big-time players in A.J. Pena and Wesley Neal.
Name to watch for CCSU, Jalen Howard, who is 9.5 sacks on the year, 12.5 tackles for loss. Considering the fact that Central Connecticut State wasn't even really on most people's radars to make the playoff, and if it wasn't for Parentes having a complete meltdown with the amount of interceptions that he threw this past game, this probably would be Duquesne that we'd be talking about, which would have been fun if Duquesne and Parentes was facing off with his former team. UT Martin versus number 16 UNH. We know one thing is for certain, that UNH always has a very swarming and talented defense. Josiah Silver, who I put on my Buck Buchanan Award ballot, he was not my number one pick, but he was on my ballot, has been a premier player throughout his entire career, is super experienced, and has the stats to back it up. What do you think of this UT Martin versus UNH game?
Yeah, I was never that high on UNH this season. I just wasn't. I thought that, they're a little bit worse than typical UNH teams in the past, but if you're a little worse, you're still pretty good. But I just did not see a bunch from them this season that made me get up out of my seat and start saying, watch out for UNH. Let's keep our eyes here. I thought Seth Morgan's been fine. They're going to try to do the running quarterback bit, and UNH at times, if you don't tackle the running quarterback, he can run all over you, and UT Martin is going to have to be ready for that. I think UT Martin has the edge. I've liked them this season. They've been fine. They haven't been stellar. Someone had to win, and they do. Unfortunately, they drop weird ones at the end. I know Tennessee Tech tied in a 4-way tie for that conference championship, but UT Martin it was a bit barnyard to close it out. UT Martin is not past the barnyard allegations, but I think Kinkead Dent is the better quarterback in this matchup, and I think that's what it's going to come down to. They're very similar, so if we're drawing the parallels, who has the edge there? It's UT Martin.
Lehigh versus Richmond, an East Coast battle. We got a lot of East Coast battles in these first round matchups. Lehigh made the rounds last week after they carried their goalposts after beating their longtime rival Lafayette, which is one of the most historic, fantastic rivalries in just the sport of football in general. If you're unaware of it, get out from under the rock that you're living from, and don't call yourself a football fan if you don't know about Lehigh Lafayette. But Lehigh has this momentum after Lafayette won the Patriot League last year. And what better way to galvanize and rally the troops than throwing a goalpost? I think it was 4 miles that they carried the damn thing and then threw it into a river. Yeah,
that was a tall bridge. That was not a light toss. That drop definitely did some damage, not damage, but definitely affected the flow of that water.
There's some did the aliens build the pyramids type shit going on here, because it's how did it end up that far? How did there had to have been some sort of intervention. They're going to need the aliens to help them win this game against Richmond, which we know that they've got fantastic production at running back from Zach Palmer-Smith, 1,200 yards, 13 touchdowns on the season. I have no idea if Lehigh's top running back, Luke Yoder, is related to Bronson Yoder. They're from 2 different hometowns. I'm just going to go with the fact that they're fourth cousins separated on, whatever side, but he's a great back. just like his indirect cousin Bronson Yoder, who's been fantastic for William & Mary. And then also watch out for Matt Spatney, who has 11.5 sacks and 11.5 tackles for loss on the season.
Yeah, I don't know if we've done enough due diligence on Richmond this season. Like, we should have mentioned probably Zach Palmer-Smith before this week. He's been super impactful for them. And then their quarterback, Camden Coleman, he's capable of having a monster game. Like I've seen him pulling fat stats numbers like a couple of weeks in a row. Camden Coleman, like, what? Oh, geez, that's a little gaudy. And then he can do in a 27-0 win versus William & Mary last week. 9 for 14, 69 yards, no touchdowns, a pick. But he had 2 rush touchdowns and 73 rushing yards. So he's going to be on either through the air or through the ground. And I think if Lehigh just can't let him be on both, and then it'll be competitive. But if he gets started and the offense really starts working through him and Palmer-Smith, then you're in for a long one. As
we've seen in these CAA battles against the Patriot League, I pretty heavily lean Richmond because you can't trust the Patriot League to play well in the playoffs. They tend to lay eggs unless it's Holy Cross. Villanova hosts Eastern Kentucky, number 11 Villanova. This offense wasn't as productive as it was last year by any stretch. They were very shaky this season. Connor Watkins did not play as potently as we were expecting him to this season. Was a guy who maybe could have been on the Walter Payton Award watch list at the beginning of the year and kind of fell off. But Eastern Kentucky has been on a hot streak lately. Joshua Carter, 1,100 yards and 13 touchdowns. In addition to that, Brendan Bell is a player on defense for Villanova, which has been their strong suit, who has 14 tackles for loss and 104 tackles this season.
Yeah, heading into last week, I knew it was pretty likely Villanova was going to make the playoffs, right? They're playing Delaware. How much are we going to weigh that against them if they lose? But they don't lose, and they beat Delaware, which was surprising because Villanova this year has been very inconsistent. But that's a huge win. I'm going to respect the Delaware win. Delaware is a very good team, and Delaware is a team that would have been in the playoffs if they weren't moving up. And Villanova to step up and beat them is great for their momentum. Like that's just a big time win. They've also, though, this year lost to Monmouth, who does have a good offense, and they've lost to Maine, and they try to lose to Towson. So they're not incapable of dropping one. And they're not a world beater, but it told me a lot about this team that they didn't decide to limp into the playoffs, but to get in with a huge win against a very good team.
Yeah, both these squads, as you mentioned, they've got energy coming off of their recent performances, the EKU big wins over Tarleton and Central Arkansas. And then you mentioned that Delaware win. It's going to be who comes in more locked in and ready to play. I am always going to be a CAA homer and will lean Villanova in this situation. Northern Arizona versus number 15 Abilene Christian. Ty Pennington, have no idea if he's related to Chad Pennington, would assume not, but we're going to say that he is. 66% passer on the year, 13 touchdowns. He's been a quality player for them. And then one of the coolest DB names in the country, DJ Van Hook. That just sounds like a badass name. He's got 8 PBUs on the year. He's baiting opposing quarterbacks into with that hook in order to create turnovers. MacGyver, though, needs to be on top of his P's and Q's if he wants to have one of his strong games in this playoff performance. But you noted here that he has an undisclosed injury, so we don't really know what the deal is.
Yeah, not sure if he just left last week's game. He left with an undisclosed injury in the first half. Yet to have an update. It could just be we're in the playoffs. We're not going to play you. You had an injury, so you're going to sit on the sidelines, and we're going to keep you fresh for week 1. Or it could be, all right, you're a little banged up. We're not gonna push it in a game that we don't need. But he is going to be the key in this game. If he plays, he's going to distribute the ball to all the very stellar offensive players that they have with Nehemiah Martinez, Blaine Taylor. But also, if he doesn't play, Joe, here's why I'm not abandoning Abilene Christian, and that's because the running duo of Sam Hicks and Isaiah Johnson has been so strong. That running game is so strong that even if they don't have the top passer in the FCS this year, one of the best passers in the FCS, in MacIver. I'm not giving up faith that they could pull it out against Northern Arizona. That could be Jinx City, because Northern Arizona is that team that will ruin your season. They will tank you. They don't care who you are. So this is going to have to be a watch and stay very closely noting whether or not MacIver is going to be playing this one.
Sean, we've got Drake versus number 13 Tarleton State. The Grimace Conference is trying to establish themselves in their first year of playoff.
Need a big one, fellas.
Yeah, we definitely need a big one here, Grimace Conference, because hold on 1 second. I need to pull up the full bracket here and get a quick tally of all of the Grimace Conference teams, just really quickly.
Oh, sure, why not?
Yeah, this is important. Wait 1 minute. I'm pulling up the bracket as we speak. I'm pulling it up. Okay. So wait, of all of the, I'm counting Tarleton.
Mm-hmm. Should be Abilene Christian.
Abilene Christian. Man, that's it. That's bullshit.
That's all we got.
What kind of anti-Grimace Conference propaganda has been put into the heads of the committee? This is why we need more representation. We just need one commissioner. We just need one commissioner to sign off on this. To get back to the game, though, Tarleton is going to shine with the opportunity against the Rudy Poo. I'm stealing that line from Blake.
Yeah.
Pioneer League representative Drake. They don't really do anything that's necessarily spectacular. You know, like what are we pulling from with Drake here that makes me think that they're going to show up? The Pioneer League, since USD used to be really freaking good, they're not anymore. Dalton Kincaid was the last time that they were really truly competitive. The Pioneer League has not put out a quality representative. Luke Bailey seemingly is one of their better players, 66% passer, 13 touchdowns. Finn Claypool, who is definitely not related to Chase Claypool, has 9 sacks on the season. I feel pretty good for Tarleton State here with that really strong offensive line that they have to play a great game.
I hope you're not looking for an argument from me on the Drake take. I'm not going to stand up here and speak to the bully pulpit about Drake and how we have to be worried about them as a threat. I know it's not great when you're doing a playoff preview and you have to be blunt like that, but unfortunately, we also have to be honest. Tarleton State has the huge edge in this one. Tarleton just destroyed Central Arkansas, who fell off a cliff. Thanks, Grimace League representative. Way to keep it competitive down the stretch. Additionally, they have the big running back, Kayvon Britton. That's what you need in the playoffs. And their quarterback, Victor Gabalis, has been catching fire, 7 pass touchdowns over the last 2 games. I think that's also, he's averaging about around 300 yards over the last 2 games. So they got working through the air, they got it working on the ground, and they got it working because they're playing Drake. So Tarleton State should be able to move right through the first round.
Last game that we've got here, Tennessee State versus Montana. Tennessee State's hot right now. Eddie George got his guys rolling with the big win that they had against SEMO. It sucks that they're facing off with Montana and having to go play in the frigid cold. I'm going to pull a quick weather update after I throw it to you here. If Fife is starting, which it seems like that's the direction that they're turning in, I feel pretty good about their performance in this one. To add into Tennessee State and expectations for them, Eric George, Ellis Sanders, Keandre Booker, and Chris Walker are a very fearsome unit in their front 7. They all have over 10 tackles for loss. So Montana needs to be ready to be facing off with a bunch of hard-nosed dudes that are ready to come hit.
Montana should be confident going into this matchup if they have Logan Fife playing, because he can score points. He makes the right decisions.
I don't mean to cut you off, but watch us be like, and everyone's just assuming like, oh, Fife's going to start, and then Ayat's going to try it out there for the first series, and then I'm just going to turn the TV off if that happens.
Well, Ayat, I know we went down with injury, and that's what led to Fife coming in the Portland State game. So if he's fresh enough, I can't imagine they still make that decision, seeing how that Portland State game shook out. But it should be Fife leading the charge. He's their best option at getting an offense really rolling. But additionally, Tennessee State's got to do it at quarterback in Draylon Ellis, who's legit double threat. This guy is blazing fast and is a good quarterback. So If Montana wants to get in a shootout, I can see Tennessee State saying, all right, we got a dude too that can move that ball down the field. It's going to be a who makes the most mistakes type of game and who can limit that. I think turnover margin plays a huge part in this one because if Montana comes out just a little bit sleepy, it's not going to be fun for them. If they come out wide awake, I think they could pretty much just score, be a little staunch on defense, and walk with this one.
Little weather projection here from meteorologist Joe DeLeone. Mid to high 40s in Tennessee right now, but 38 degrees is the expected temperature for Friday and Saturday. So
don't worry, it's dry cold, Joe.
Yeah, it's going to be colder, but I don't think that I think that there's going to be a lot of these Tennessee State football players that are like, oh, it's not that much colder. I'll just wear an extra long sleeve. No, trust me, you guys, you're going to be stepping into a brick wall of temperature. And anyone who tunes into the show that's from Montana, y'all know what we're talking about here. Anyone who's outside of Montana and thinks we're overhyping this, that is the coldest I have ever felt when it was 40 degrees. I have sat through 40-degree weather plenty of times. I've practiced in 40-degree weather with shorts on. I have never felt that damn cold in my life when it's been 40 degrees.
I was getting a drink on, should have been warmer. I had a hot chocolate. It was chocolate milk in about 5 minutes in that cold. I was sitting there. I had to crush it because I could feel the heat actually dropping in the cup while it was in my hand. Why you guys chose to lie to us to just pull a yarn to two FCS podcasters that are coming out there?
We get the bit from everybody that you guys think this is cold. Oh, I wear shorts to work. Okay, Sean. Yeah, thanks. Not you, the Sean that we met.
I'm not wearing shorts to work. I was freezing. Bring the long johns, fellas.
I walked to go get a coffee today, and I had to put my puffer on, and it was 40 degrees this morning. I'm not playing by that. Like the puffer, not like the light one that I usually wear. All right,
your burrow puffer?
Yeah, like the huge one that I have. All right, let's get the FC estimates. Sean, 5 for 10 last week. 7 for 10 for Joe. 81 out of 120. 75 out of 120. Is the hole too big for Sean to recover? SEMO versus Illinois State. Sean, what do you got?
I am going with SEMO.
Give me Illinois State. Central Connecticut. CCon is an interesting way to abbreviate that. Did you look that up or did you just come up with that on your own?
I came up with it on my own. I'm going with URI in this matchup, and I unfortunately will not be able to attend the game. I think a lot of our fellow teammates will be there, though.
Yeah, some of you guys weren't at homecoming, and but whatever. I wish I could be going there, though. I wish I could be going there as well. UT Martin versus UNH. I'm taking URI.
I am going with UT Martin in this matchup.
Give me Lehigh. That was a little too. I accentuated that one a little bit too much. That was a little. There's a little bit of an extra moan on there. That was
unnecessary.
I might need to put an expletive. You might need to put an expletive over that on audio.
Oh, don't worry about it. No, that's staying right up.
Lehigh versus Richmond.
Richmond. Go with Richmond. Go Spiders, I guess.
I'm taking Richmond as well. Smart pick by you to not dig yourself into a bigger hole. EKU versus Villanova.
Don't tell me if I'm having smart picks or non-smart picks. I had
plenty of smart picks last week. If you copied me more often, then maybe you'd be closer to being one of the top pickers here.
Yeah, I if I were a superhero, I wouldn't want to be a chalk man, which is what you are. Just going around distributing chalk.
Chalk doesn't matter when you're wrong all the time. Who do you got?
All right, chalk man. Villanova.
So he goes with chalk. I'm going to take Villanova, NAU versus Abilene Christian.
Abilene Christian.
Sorry, Grimace Conference. Give me NAU.
What are you doing?
Chad Pennington's fourth removed nephew. Drake versus Tarleton.
Yeah, Tarleton. Gotta go.
Someone called me out for my pronunciation of Tarleton. Tarleton.
I've seen that comment has been floating around every time we talk about Tarleton. And
hey, guess what? I don't give a shit. Nobody has told. I get this. Seriously. This is one of the things that always bugs me too when you get corrected on mispronunciations. Tell me how to pronounce it. Don't just sit there and give me shit for doing it.
I think they're Tarleton because they always type in that UH, try to phonetically do it. But I don't know if it's supposed to be Tarleton or Tarleton.
Tennessee. Well, I'm picking you.
Who cares?
Tennessee State versus Montana.
Montana.
Give me the Grizz, folks. That's going to be it from us. At Joe DeLeone, at Sanderson Radio, at Hack City Pod. We will be back later on in the week recapping the FCS first round action. Enjoy your Thanksgiving, and we'll talk to you folks later.